Title: He's Not Dead. Black waitress stops billionaire CEO's funeral. What happens next shocks everyone. The rain began falling just as the funeral procession arrived. Dark clouds hung low over the quiet cemetery outside the city, and rows of black umbrellas covered the gathered crowd like a sea of shadows. Luxury cars lined the entrance road. Security guards stood near the gates. Reporters whispered quietly behind their cameras. Inside the large white funeral tent, some of the most powerful people in the country had gathered to say goodbye to one man. Billionaire CEO Victor Langston. Founder of the global tech giant Langston Dynamics. Philanthropist, visionary, and according to every medical report released that week, dead, at just 58 years old. The official story was simple. Victor Langston had collapsed in his private office 3 days earlier. Doctors at the hospital declared it a sudden cardiac arrest. The news spread across the world within hours. Stock markets reacted. News channels ran endless tributes. Employees cried in company offices across 3 continents. Now, under the gray sky of a rainy morning, the man who built a billion-dollar empire was about to be buried. Inside the tent, a polished black coffin rested at the front, surrounded by white roses and tall candles. The priest stood ready to begin the final prayer. Victor's wife, Elaine Langston, sat in the front row dressed in elegant black, her expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. Beside her were board members, executives, politicians, and celebrities. But just outside the tent, standing near the muddy gravel path, someone very different was struggling to catch her breath. Her name was Tasha Williams. 24 years old, a waitress. Her black uniform from the downtown diner was still wrinkled from her shift. Her sneakers were soaked from running 6 blocks through the rain, and her heart was pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. She looked at the funeral tent, then at the coffin. Her voice trembled. No, she whispered it again, louder. No, this can't be happening. A security guard stepped in front of her. Ma'am, this is a private service. Tasha shook her head frantically. I need to go in. Family and invited guests only. But you're about to bury him. The guard frowned. Yes, ma'am. Tasha pointed toward the coffin. He's not dead. The guard blinked. I'm sorry. Tasha's voice rose, shaking with urgency. He's not dead. You're making a mistake. Several guests near the entrance turned their heads. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Inside the tent, the priest paused mid-sentence. Elaine Langston slowly removed her sunglasses. The security guard tried to remain calm. Ma'am, please lower your voice. But Tasha pushed past him. People gasped as she rushed into the tent, water dripping from her jacket. Stop. Her voice echoed across the silent crowd. Don't bury him. Every eye turned toward her. Executives whispered. A reporter quickly raised his camera. The priest stepped back in confusion. Elaine Langston stood slowly. And who? She said coldly. Are you? Tasha swallowed hard. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained firm. My name is Tasha Williams. Silence. And why? Elaine continued. Are you interrupting my husband's funeral? Tasha looked directly at the coffin. Because Victor Langston isn't dead. The room erupted in whispers. A board member scoffed. This is ridiculous. Another executive muttered. Someone remove her. But Tasha stepped closer to the coffin. I saw him last night. The words froze the room. Elaine's expression hardened. My husband died 3 days ago. No, Tasha said quietly. He didn't. One of the doctors standing near the front spoke up. Young lady, Mr. Langston was examined by 2 cardiologists and a medical examiner. I know, Tasha said. But they missed something. Laughter broke out among several guests. Elaine raised a hand. Explain yourself. Tasha took a deep breath. Last night, around midnight, a man came into the diner where I work. She paused. He looked sick. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. Pale, weak, barely able to walk. A reporter whispered, where is this going? Tasha continued. He ordered coffee but didn't drink it. She swallowed. He kept rubbing his chest. Her voice softened. I asked if he needed help. Elaine crossed her arms. And this man was my husband. Tasha nodded. I didn't know who he was at first. The crowd listened more carefully now. He collapsed in the booth. Gasps spread through the tent. I called 911, Tasha said. But before they arrived, he woke up. What? Someone whispered. Tasha continued. He grabbed my wrist and said something strange. What? Elaine demanded. Tasha hesitated. He said, "They think I'm dead." The tent fell silent. Rain tapped against the roof like distant drums. One of the board members laughed nervously. This is absurd. But Tasha's eyes were serious. He told me someone was trying to kill him. The words hung in the air. Elaine's voice turned icy. Security. 2 guards stepped forward, but before they could escort her away, Tasha raised her voice again. He has a rare heart condition. The doctor frowned. What condition? It's called Lazarus syndrome. The crowd murmured. The doctor looked skeptical. That's extremely rare. I know, Tasha said. My father had it. Everyone quieted again. He was declared dead once too, she said softly. But hours later, he woke up. The doctor frowned thoughtfully now. Elaine's patience was wearing thin. My husband is in that coffin. Tasha stepped closer. Then open it. Gasps spread through the tent. Elaine glared at her. Absolutely not. But the doctor spoke again. Mrs. Langston, it might be wise to verify. Elaine turned sharply. You believe this waitress? The doctor hesitated. I believe in caution. The crowd leaned forward. Rain continued falling harder outside. Elaine stared at the coffin. Her jaw tightened. Finally she said quietly, "Fine." The room held its breath. 2 attendants stepped forward. Slowly. Carefully. They opened the coffin. Inside lay Victor Langston. Perfectly still. His skin pale. His hands folded across his chest. Someone in the crowd whispered. See. Tasha stepped closer. Her eyes scanned his face. Wait. She leaned over slightly. Then she said 3 quiet words. Look at his throat. The doctor stepped forward. He bent down. Studied Victor carefully. Then suddenly, his eyes widened. Hold on. He pressed 2 fingers gently against Victor's neck. The entire room froze. Seconds passed. Then the doctor's voice shook. Oh my God. Elaine grabbed his arm. What? The doctor looked up. There's a pulse. Chaos exploded in the tent. Reporters shouted. Guests gasped. Security rushed forward. The doctor barked orders. Call an ambulance. Elaine staggered backward in shock. Victor Langston's fingers twitched. Then, a faint breath escaped his lips. Tasha stepped back, tears filling her eyes. I told you. Minutes later, paramedics rushed in. Victor was lifted carefully onto a stretcher. As they wheeled him toward the ambulance, his eyes fluttered open slightly. The crowd stared in stunned silence. Elaine stood frozen. Tasha remained near the entrance. One of the paramedics turned to her. You saved his life. She shook her head softly. I just recognized the signs. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens echoed into the distance. Reporters turned toward Tasha. Flashing cameras filled the rainy morning. But she quietly slipped away through the cemetery gates. Back toward the city. Back toward the small diner where she worked. Hours later, inside a hospital room surrounded by doctors and machines, Victor Langston finally opened his eyes. And the first thing he said was, "Where's the waitress?"